The Department for Culture, Media and Sport is a department of the United Kingdom government with responsibility for culture and sport in England, and some aspects of the media throughout the whole UK, such as broadcasting and internet. It also has responsibility for the tourism, leisure and creative industries. The department was also responsible for the delivery of the 2012 Olympic Games and Paralympic Games and the building of a digital economy. History and responsibilities. The DCMS originates from the Department of National Heritage, which itself was created on the 11th of April 1992 out of various other departments, soon after the Conservative election victory. The former ministers for the arts and for sport had previously been located in other departments. The DNH was renamed as the Department for Culture, Media and Sport on 14 July 1997, under the premiership of Tony Blair. 2012 Olympics. DCMS was the coordinating department for the successful bid by London to host the 2012 Olympics and appointed and oversees the agencies delivering the Games infrastructure and programme, principally the Olympic Delivery Authority and LOCOG. The June 2007 cabinet reshuffle led to Tessa Jowell MP taking on the role of Paymaster General and then Minister for the Cabinet Office while remaining Minister for the Olympics. Ministerial responsibility for the Olympics was shared with Ms. Jowell in the Cabinet Office, but the staff of the Government Olympic Executive remained based in DCMS. 2010 present. Following the 2010 general election, ministerial responsibility for the Olympics returned to the Secretary of State. Although Jeremy Hunt's full title was Secretary of State for Culture, Olympics, Media and Sport, the department's name remained unchanged. On 4 September 2012, Hunt was appointed Health Secretary in a cabinet reshuffle and replaced by Maria Miller. Maria Miller later resigned due to controversy over her expenses. Her replacement was announced later that day as Sajid Javid. After the 2015 general election, John Whittingdale was appointed as Secretary of State, tasked with initiating the BBC Charter review process. DCMS received full responsibility for the digital economy policy, formerly jointly held with BIS, and sponsorship of the Information Commissioner's Office from the Ministry of Justice. The department also gained two additional ministers, Baroness Shields and Baroness Neville Rolfe. Whittingdale was replaced by Karen Bradley after the referendum on the UK's membership of the EU in July 2016. Policy areas. It is responsible for government policy in the following areas: the arts, broadcasting, including the BBC, Internet and international ICT policy, telecommunications and broadband, civil society, charities, creative industries, advertising, arts market, design, fashion, film, music industry, publishing, historic environment, architecture and design, cultural property and heritage, digital economy, entertainment licensing, gambling and racing, press freedom and regulation, libraries, museums and galleries, national lottery, tourism, sport, Olympics legacy. Other responsibilities. Other responsibilities of DCMS include listing of historic buildings, scheduling of ancient monuments, export licensing of cultural goods, and management of the government art collection. The Secretary of State has responsibility for the maintenance of the land and buildings making up the historic royal estate under the Crown Lands Act 1851. These inherited functions, which were once centralized in the Office of Works, are now delivered as follows. The royal parks are maintained by an executive agency within DCMS, the Royal Parks Agency. The unoccupied royal palaces in England are managed by a contract with Historic Royal Palaces. Maintenance of the occupied royal palaces in England was funded by an annual grant in aid to the royal household until 31 March 2012. The Secretary of State for Culture retains legal responsibility for these palaces, but from the 1st of April 2012 this funding was amalgamated with the civil list into a single sovereign grant administered by HM Treasury. DCMS continues to make a separate small grant to the royal household for the maintenance of Marlborough House. The department also has responsibility for state ceremonial occasions and royal funerals. However, responsibility for the civil list element of head of state expenditure and income from the separate Crown estate remains with the Chancellor of the Exchequer. DCMS works jointly with the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills on design issues, including sponsorship of the Design Council, and on relations with the computer games and publishing industries. DCMS organizes the annual Remembrance Day ceremony at the Cenotaph and has responsibility for providing humanitarian assistance in the event of a disaster. In the government's response to the 7th of July 2005 London bombings, the department coordinated humanitarian support to the relatives of victims and arranged the memorial events. Headquarters. The main offices are at 100 Parliament Street, occupying part of the building known as Government Offices, Great George Street. Ministers. The DCMS ministers are as follows. The Permanent Secretary is Sue Owen CB. Bodies sponsored by DCMS. The DCMS has policy responsibility for 3 statutory corporations and 2 public broadcasting authorities. These bodies and their operation are largely independent of government policy influence. Statutory corporations. The statutory corporations are Channel 4 Television Corporation, Historic Royal Palaces, Office of Communications, shared with the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills. The department was responsible for the horse race Totalisator board until the sale of the Totes business to Betfred in July 2011. Public Broadcasting Authorities. The public broadcasting authorities are British Broadcasting Corporation, Cynel Pedwar Cymru, and the S4C Authority, which regulates and manages S4C. Non-departmental public bodies. The DCMS sponsors the following executive non-departmental public bodies: Arts Council England, British Esports Association, British Film Institute, British Library, British Museum, Equality and Human Rights Commission, Gambling Commission, Jeffrey Museum, Historic England, Horniman Museum, Horse Race Betting Levy Board, Imperial War Museum, Information Commissioner's Office, National Gallery, National Heritage Memorial Fund, National Maritime Museum, National Museums Liverpool, National Portrait Gallery, Natural History Museum, Royal Armouries, Science Museum Group, Sir John Soane's Museum, Sport England, Sports Grounds Safety Authority, Tate, UK Anti-Doping, UK Sport, Victoria and Albert Museum, Visit Britain, Visit England, Wallace Collection. The DCMS sponsors the following advisory non-departmental public bodies: Reviewing Committee on the Export of Works of Art and Objects of Cultural Interest, Theatres Trust, Treasure Valuation Committee. DCMS also has responsibility for 2 other bodies classified by the Office for National Statistics as being within the central government sector. The London Organising Committee for the Olympic Games is a company limited by guarantee, established by a joint venture agreement between the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, the Mayor of London and the British Olympic Association. Churches Conservation Trust. DCMS is also the major financial sponsor of the following bodies, which are not classed as part of the UK central government: Chatham Historic Dockyard Trust, Greenwich Foundation for the Old Royal Naval College for the Old Royal Naval College, Tyne and Wear Museums, sponsorship of the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts transferred to the Department for Innovation, Universities and Skills in June 2007. The Museum of London transferred to the Greater London Authority from 1 April 2008. DCMS formerly sponsored 8 regional cultural consortiums with NDPB status. In July 2008, DCMS announced that the consortiums would be phased out over a 12-month period and replaced by a new alliance of the regional teams of Arts Council England, Sport England, English Heritage and the MLA. Devolution, Culture, Sport and Tourism are devolved matters, with responsibility resting with corresponding departments in the Scottish Government in Scotland, the Welsh Government in Wales and the Northern Ireland Executive in Northern Ireland. Media-related policy is generally reserved to Westminster, i.e., not devolved. These areas include Scotland Reserved Matters, Film Classification, Broadcasting, Public Lending Right, Northern Ireland Reserved Matters, Broadcasting, the National Lottery. The British Board of Film Classification also classifies films for viewing in Northern Ireland. The department's main counterparts in Northern Ireland are as follows: Department of Culture, Arts and Leisure, Department of the Environment, Department of Enterprise, Trade and Investment, Department for Social Development. Wales. Under the Welsh devolution settlement, specific policy areas are transferred to the Welsh Government rather than reserved to Westminster.